Legend of Total War here, and today I want to shine a light on various Creative Assembly ex staff members, ex developers that have posted statements about what it was like working at Creative Assembly on various projects. I'm going to be primarily focusing on this one here from Julian McKinley, who worked primarily on Rome 2. But it says here that he was working at Creative Assembly between 2009 and 2014. There is a bit of a misconception that he was fired after Rome 2, but that is not true. He worked through to at least somewhat Total War Attila, and he goes into a detailed account of what actually happened. I'm not going to read through everything in this particular video here, but I would encourage you, if you're at all interested in what the hell happened with Rome 2, there is some super interesting stuff within this. I mean, it is a very long read. Super interesting things that occurred during the production of Rome 2 that is absolutely damning on the production, and that actually brings a lot of light to what the hell went wrong with Rome 2, because a lot of what went wrong with Rome 2 also ended up going wrong with future projects, such as I would say Throne to Britannia, but I would say that one was just more of a half-baked project, so that one's not really applied. But projects such as Hyenas especially, and Total War Warhammer 3's launch, and to a degree, I suppose, Total War Pharaoh's launch. Basically, management making these decisions when they don't really know what players want, and they don't care what players want, and they're not looking for critical feedback, and that they have very invested and passionate staff members working at the company, and that these opinions are not being listened to detriment of these projects, and that we're kept in the dark for way too long, and then it's too late to make changes once we are informed about it, and we're just stuck with these really awful gameplay mechanics that ruin these games. And sometimes these gameplay mechanics persist across multiple titles, and then we just end up getting used to it, but just because, you know, we love the franchise and we just put up with a hell of a lot of stuff. And that the success of Total War is largely down to the extreme patience and forgiveness of the community itself, which, you know, I've seen personally that Creative Assembly has gotten away with so many things, has done so many rotten things, and then the community has just almost instantly forgiven them. Not the entire community, but for the most part, they've gotten away with so much stuff. And in this article here, he goes through quite a lot of what the problems were and how damning it actually was. There's no incentive for Julian, 10 years after having worked at the company, to come here and post something like this, except to try to show you guys that, hey, what happened then, that's still happening now. You can see the correlation between then and now, and how this is going to keep on happening. And the main reasons why I want to shine lights on it is because I want this stuff to stop. I'd love to just go back to what it was like during Warhammer 2 and just sit back, relax, and just have good times roll in. I was not pressuring Creative Assembly whatsoever during that time. But given all of the mistakes that they've made, I feel like a lot of need to put pressure on Creative Assembly to stop these problems from occurring. If there is enough community pressure on them, maybe they'll think twice about making these stupid ideas that end up costing people their jobs, that end up making bad games, and then we have to wait a year until the next game, and then that game's not very good either. So many Total War games are just lukewarm at best, and there's really no reason why they can't all be smash hits, because the formula itself is fantastic. Anyway, first thing I want to talk about here is kind of like clearing Julian's name, because some of you guys might remember him as the Rally Point guy. Basically became the scapegoat for Rome 2, because he appeared on the Rally Point interview saying that, Rome 2 had a 40% bigger budget than any other Total War game, which was actually true. It did have a bigger budget than, say, Shogun 2 or maybe Empire Total War. But the problem was, and as he explains through that, so much of that budget got eaten up in marketing, and so much of what he was working on, which was AI programming, was working on marketing demos. And I'm not going to go through all of that, but I would highly recommend you go through and read about stuff, especially about the Siege of Carthage stuff. And it really gives us an insight as to how something like the Siege of Carthage ended up happening. So just in case you aren't familiar, one of the best marketing materials that Creative Assembly had for Rome 2 was the Siege of Carthage, right? It was this really massive battle, very cinematic. Everything just looked amazing. And in the battle, they said, this is pre-alpha. The main game is going to look way better than this. And then the game came out and it couldn't even render faces very well. And the reasons for that is explained in this document here. Again, he writes it out so much better than I could read it out. So that's why I would encourage you guys to do it. But I'm just saying the information is here. Now, there is one bit that I want to point out because it really gives... Whoops. I'm looking for Control F, that's it. Because you can actually point to this right now. It's still in the game. Hang on. So if I go down to here, yeah, here. So this is about... Remember, you'll probably recall that I've said many times over the years that the game lies to you, right? And that you should not trust whatever the game is telling you, because it's trying to deceive you because it wants you to play a certain way, but it's usually at your detriment. Excuse me. So let me just read out this one here. So it says, as far as I know, the only significant example of human-faced gameplay feature that made it into battles was the cinematic mode that allowed players to control an individual unit from close third-person perspective. So that would be this button down here. So I've got a screenshot that I took of Rome 2 about 10 minutes before making this video. So I just load up a random battle, Triarii, and here it is. This is in the current patch, no mods, Rome 2. It says toggle cinematic mode, you press insert. This mode gives a small combat bonus to the selected unit. Interesting. Okay. So where were we here? Third person perspective. This was similar to the unit camera that existed in previous Total War games, but arguably worse because it forced the camera very close to the unit, reducing the player's tactical awareness. During testing, it became clear that no one was using this feature, and design leads were unhappy that a feature that had spent a lot of time on was being ignored by players. They then announced that a combat bonus would be given to the units while in this camera's mode in order to encourage its use, which prompted controversy with programmers arguing that the camera mode should not influence the outcome of the battle. Eventually, design leadership settled on the following compromise. The user interface would tell players that it gave a combat bonus. But the combat bonus wouldn't actually be applied. They wanted to explicitly lie to the players in order to trick them into using an unpopular feature so that they could save face. I honestly don't know whether a combat bonus was applied in the end. It's possible that the button is still lying to this day. I remember playing Rome 2 and using this mode and thinking to myself, man, my guys are not fighting any better whatsoever. What is this, like a +1 melee attack bonus or something? Well, it ends up it was a +0 melee attack bonus. So this is one of the key areas that taught me that Creative Assembly will oftentimes put absolute bullshit in the game to try to get people to play a certain way, which is why, I have persisted in playing these games in such a way as to just ignore what the game is telling me and to just go with my instincts. So these are just, I don't know why they do this stuff here. They want to influence the way that the people are playing the game, but they do it in a very dishonest way. So I really wanted to point out that this is the kind of stuff that you'll find all throughout the article. Super interesting, super damning stuff. And basically the stuff that he was working on, such as he's primarily AI designer, which I think is a very important aspect. If you're playing Total War and you're thinking to yourself, hey, the AI in this game is shit, man, you should read this article, because so much of this is him trying to make the AI better, but that the AI is bad by design. Like, they wanted to do all these cut corners things, and that the programmers just don't think that the players should be able to bamboozle the AI in the way that they could, which, that's actually where I come in, because I do like doing a lot of that stuff, but at the same time I shouldn't be able to do it, but I know that I can. But that's because they do all these cutting corners with the AI. But anyway, highly recommend reading that. So there's a ton of information here. It's a really long article. Really want to thank Julian for posting this, because he's put his name to this, long after all the backlash that he got from Rome 2. He's moved on from that. He's working in other companies, doing just fine. He absolutely doesn't need to do this. He's basically reopening an old wound to let you guys know that what happened in Total War Rome 2, that still happens to this day, and you guys deserve better from that. And that there are developers just like Julian at Creative Assembly fighting for you, but they don't last forever there. They won't stay there forever. If they feel like they're ignored, that their expertise isn't being applied, they will leave. And that absolutely sucks to have somebody at the company that is essential for the production of a Total War game. This is like, well, I'm not really being utilized here, and they just go. And then what you end up with is just a lot of barnacles being there, being like yes men that will just do whatever the leadership tell you to do. And I can personally attest to a lot of the conversations that I've had with like marketing members of Creative Assembly. They are just yes men. They're there to just do whatever the leadership want to do and just provide nothing but corporate statements. And they have nothing of value to offer the franchise at all, because they just love everything that comes out of it. Like, I was told that Warhammer 3 was going to be the greatest Total War game ever. You know, this was years before it actually came out. And then Pharaoh was like, no, Pharaoh's great. You know, they love Pharaoh. But, you know, these don't reflect the way that the community by and large feel about these games. But when you've got passionate people, here's the thing, passionate people that love the franchise will criticize it, because you don't criticize shit that you don't like. I don't criticize friggin' Madden. I mean, I use it as an example, but I don't care about Madden. It's a game that's got huge amounts of problems. I don't care about Madden. I'm not gonna go on, get my torches and pitchforks out on Madden. I just don't care about it. Why am I constantly doing this stuff with Total War? Because I care about it. I want it to exist beyond, you know, the 2020s if possible. And sometimes I just get worried, because especially after Hyenas, when you see that such a gross mismanagement of projects leads to experienced and valuable staff being let go, whereas unimportant leadership is left there like brain rot, you just think, if this keeps going on, this company may go under. And I think the people who are running Creative Assembly actually don't care if Total War goes under. I don't think they actually care. So I think it's really brave of these people to bring these statements out, because I alone can't do it. You know, as a YouTuber, I don't have this insight. I was never really able to talk to developers while I was in the creator program. Now, there's still some more stuff as well, but yeah, highly recommend giving Julian McKinley a read here. And I honestly think he should get basically an apology from the community, from the way he was treated from Rome 2. And if need be, I'll do that apology. So on behalf of the entire Total War community, I would like to extend a full apology to Julian McKinley for the way that he was treated post Total War Rome 2. And the fact that Creative Assembly, his employer, did absolutely nothing to defend him at all after Rome 2's launch, because as he's even said here, and I can personally attest to this, Creative Assembly doesn't throw people under the bus, but if someone is conveniently put under the bus, they will allow it to happen. They will allow for people that are passionate about the franchise, that work with them, and it's not just me, it's happened to a lot of people, they will allow the community by and large to rip them to shreds, and they'll just you know, turn the other cheek and be like, well, we're not the ones doing it, we'll just let it happen. Even though in the past they've said things like, we don't like it when misinformation goes out. They only do something about misinformation when it's directly hurting the company by and large, not when it's hurting individuals. They've never, ever stepped up and stood up for individuals, even though they've said that they're a people person. If anything, they love to suppress people. You remember what happened at the end of last year with the Steam community forums, how they just went absolute ham on deleting comments and banning people. This is why I'm of the opinion that people should really just exit the official Discord and exit the Total War forum and go to unofficial sources like the Total War Reddit or anywhere else where they don't have the power to ban you or remove your comments. And that being said as well, it's always important to keep your comments as respectful as possible. And this is something that I failed at as well. But just do the best you can. Obviously, I'm not telling you not to be passionate, but if you've got an opinion, you should be allowed to express it. And that's all I really want with all this. We should be allowed to express our distaste for bad ideas that are being put into the game. And you know, read this article and you'll get a better picture about what actually gets put into these games. Now, another thing that I want to bring up here is the Glassdoor reviews. Now, Voland has made a video on this. I'm going to leave a link to it in the description, but I would highly recommend watching this video. Basically, he's going through the Glassdoor reviews from recent employees. So these aren't from Rome 2. These are for people who worked on Warhammer 3, or probably not Pharaoh, because I don't think this is CA Sophia. But these are mostly Horsham ones. And like all the terrible reviews and the information that they're providing, and it's all lines up. It all tells a very similar story. So I'd highly recommend, especially watching from here onwards, because Volan just goes through the website. Because if you want to read Glassdoor reviews, you have to put in a whole lot of information. So I don't have a Glassdoor account, so I can't go and do that. And you can see over here that I've commented on the video as well. And I would just highly recommend that you watch this video here. That being said, if you don't want to watch it, if somebody could just post just get screenshots of this, if you have a Glassdoor account, just get screenshots of this and just post it somewhere. You can post it on my Discord if you want, and then I'll collate it and then post it somewhere, or you can post it on the Reddit. But find somewhere to collate all this stuff and put it all in one place. And the purpose of this is, of course, it's so important that the Creative Assembly staff members, the people who are actually making the game, are being taken care of. And I don't mean taken care of in the mafia sense, all right? That the company is letting these people down, just like they've let you down, the people who buy their game, just like they let the YouTubers down. And every time you give them a free pass on this stuff, that gives them license to do it again. And they'll keep doing it again and again and again. They'll keep doing it until their company has run into the ground. And I don't want that to happen. So that's the purpose of making these sort of videos here. So, big thanks once again to Julian and to everyone involved too, who's willing to put their self on the line, really, to tell their story about what it's like working at Creative Assembly. Hopefully we can get to a point really soon where everything is fixed with Creative Assembly and they can just start making good games and treat people with respect, not just ignoring people left, right, and center, because they've got such passionate staff members. And most of the time the staff members that are making these criticisms, it's all the same stuff, just stuff that you guys hate. They're pointing it out well before you even get the chance to see it. And it's just been happening for over a decade now. Anyway, that's the end of this one. I will leave a link to all of these resources here in the description. Highly recommend that you go and read it. Highly recommend that you watch Volan's video. There's no point in me making a video like that. He's did an excellent coverage of it. And to communicate this stuff, go into the unofficial forums like Total War Center as well. And just talk about this stuff, because it's not what Creative Assembly wants you to do. They don't want you talking about this stuff. They want these people silenced. They don't want this word getting out there. So you need to talk about it, because by talking about it, you can help prevent this stuff from happening in future. Because a lot of people's livelihoods have been very negatively impacted by the leadership at Creative Assembly. There has been serious ramifications that have seriously hurt people. And you might think, oh, it's all a video game, who cares? Yeah, well, it's an industry and people have jobs. And there's a lot of people that move to the sleepy town of Horsham only to get fired for something that wasn't their fault. And then they're left out on their ass because, they got paid jack shit, but they were passionate about a project and they thought the company would take care of them. And the company, of course, doesn't freaking take care of them. Anyway, that's the end of this one here, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you're learning something. Appreciate you. And we'll see you next time. Later, guys.